presented. So moved. All right, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Moving and properly second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye, vote, motion carried. We're at the point now where we entertain, our public comment, period. Today, our public comment, period, we have members of the public that are here. Our policy is today, we're going to, the best we can, and ask you to adhere to the 3-minute, statement, of time that we will allot. If there's anyone present, speaking on behalf of a group or delegation, acknowledge that you are the spokesperson of that particular group or delegation. If you frame your statement in the form of a question, it's at the discretion of the chair, unless it's overridden by the board, that we will take your question and we will respond back at a later time other than today, that we don't get into a discussion about question. Public comment is for you to state what your business is to the board, that we would hear, and we would be sincere. We would, that whomever desires to speak, you don't have to stand, but you'll be recognized by the chair and then state your name for the record, that we may be able to get it in our record. That being said, we'll move forward now. This is public comment period for this meeting, and if there's anyone from the public that desires to speak, if you would be acknowledged and or recognized by the chair. Young lady, I don't know your name, but you are recognized.
Hi.
And you do
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. I appreciate it. I'm standing because I like to talk, look at the people I'm talking to. So, my name is Carol Brinson. I'm a resident of Westmoreland County. I'm also a concerned citizen. I'm a member of the Northern Neck Patriots, which are many of the people that are here with me today. And we're here to voice some concerns that we have. And I hope that you'll listen with an open heart and an open mind. And with that, I have an opening statement I would like to read to y'all. It's a little harsh, but considering some of the stories I've heard of the harsh treatment of some of the incarcerated here, it's not. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and read this, please. Chairman Fisher, Superintendent Lewis, County Supervisors and Sheriffs, I stand before you today to remind you of what the public demands of this board. As a public institution beholden to the counties, your job is to ensure that citizens of these counties are afforded a reasonable incarceration should they step aside of the law. Should a husband fall in arrears for alimony payments, should a woman drink and go over the sobriety limit at happy hour, whatever the reasons are that land them in jail for a day, year, or longer, the expectation of the voters of this county is that you would treat that citizen with respect and with every right afforded to them by the Constitution. Their rights don't leave them once they've fallen into the system, even if you disagree. Our findings are that you do not honor the basic human rights. Northern Neck Regional Jail treats everyone the same, as Ted Hall once famously said. Yes, they treat everyone the same, they treat them all like dirt. So you'll hear some stories, they will be true, and I ask you, what will be your response? What will you do to ensure justice among the least of us? Chairman Fisher, as a man of the cloth, and based upon the testimonials of many that have been incarcerated here, you should have done better in your 30-year tenure. As for the future, that is why we're here, to address and correct the wrongs, to move forward and learn from our past mistakes, to work together as a community to ensure that all citizens are treated equally, humanely, and fairly, including the least of us. Our constitutional rights are not an option, they are a mandate, and we will do everything to see it so, as is our constitutional right and your duty to uphold. In closing, I'd like to say God bless our country, God bless the J6ers, God bless those that are wrongfully incarcerated, and God bless this board to do the right thing. And you might ask, what is that right thing? In my opinion, that right thing is the major reform is needed. Major reform. Either that or a complete shutdown of this institution of horrors. The stories I've heard are incredible. So please, listen with open heart and mind, and investigate. And if it is true, do something, please. Thank you.
Who was not able to make it here today. To Northern Neck Regional Jail Board members and Captain Coach. My name is Jonathan Munifer. I was held at NNRJ for charges stemming from the January 6th coup, for which I have received a full pardon from President Trump. During my time at NNRJ, I was subjected to unsanitary conditions, quarantine holidays, and poorly trained officers. Not knowing that exists in the facility, routinely covered up with paint and not practicing, especially under inspection. The quality of food is so low that it begs the question of where are the federal dollars actually going? I have been shuffled through 2 dozen facilities nationwide, but NNRJ is by far the dirtiest facility I've ever been to and serves the worst quality food of any of them. Numerous staff members and officers antagonize, agitate, and irritate inmates for their own personal entertainment. I recall an officer utilizing an intercom system at 2 a.m., waking everyone up and upsetting those suffering from mental health issues. Officers routinely threaten and coerce inmates for which there is no accountability. I observed officers threatening and violently assaulting inmates. These practices must stop, and there will be accountability. I was savagely beaten in my cell by an inmate on the very day my attorneys came to my first in-person meeting. NNRJ, which is supposedly to be a medical facility, refused to provide me with proper medical attention. Now I may have long-term eye injury. Captain English, you may recall that my attorneys asked you to get an ice pack and treat my facial injuries and swelling. It was your staff who refused to properly treat me. For fear of staff retaliation, I never felt safe enough to bring this to anyone's attention. While I'm not able to be here in person, I have every intention of holding NNRJ accountable for failures of safety, security, and the well-being of individuals incarcerated at this facility. The abuse of the inmates that take place at NNRJ is going to come to a full stop. The corruption and mismanagement of funds will be fully investigated and appropriate oversight will be expected. Every member of this Board of Administration should expect a proper remedy within the law, all aimed at cleaning the mess that has been allowed to fester in this community. This community is rightfully enraged and will pursue accountability.
Thank you. And,
After allowing me to speak, my name is Debbie Ash. I've driven up here from Alexandria, Virginia, after hearing all the reports and everything that was going on here early on in January 6th incarcerations and what has been happening to people and the horrors that they've experienced. So I'm here I'm reading on behalf of James Grant, who is housed here. It is dated February 11, 2025. I had the extreme misfortune to be housed at Northern Neck Regional Jail for over 13 months. These were the longest months of my life and made the DC jail and USP Lewisburg look like relative havens. Starvation is rampant in Northern Neck Jail. The portions would not fill up a toddler, and the food is a disgusting soy or turkey ground crumble. Particularly infamous is the 7-day stew. I saw more fights in my time in Northern Neck than in any other facility combined. Probably about 20 during my time there at Northern Neck, versus maybe 3 in other facilities. The guards were extremely ill-prepared and incompetent, and it seems like most were too young for the job. As a joke, after being strip searched on one occasion, I was left handcuffed in an attorney booth for almost 2 hours. Officer Randall later admitted to me it was done by him and Lieutenant Ball as a joke. He seemed particularly amused by this. They routinely shake the unit down to get extra towels, which is particularly ironic because they don't give you the legally required t-shirts or underwear in the first place. Everything done at Northern Neck is done to save a penny at the expense of the dignity and humanity of the unfortunate souls housed there. During my sentencing for January 6th, facing decades in prison. Instead of talking about remorse for my actions that day, I decided to speak about Northern Neck Regional Jail and the abuse and the horrors that go on there. I did this because I felt I had a duty to inform people of that nightmare facility in your backyard. Back to them.
My name's Nikki Whitloff. I'm actually here from San Diego. And I want to say over the past 4 years, I've had the opportunity to talk to hundreds of prisoners that have gone through the BOPs all over this country. Every single person that has come through this jail says this is by far the worst hellhole they've had to be in. So I would just say, as common sense and accountability are restored to this country under the current administration, I hope that some of you that have abused your authority under the color of law and participated in the humiliation and dehumanizing of the people in this jail find yourselves on the other side of those bars, that humanity and compassion are shown to you where you chose not to give it.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Joan Johnson. I'm from Lancaster County. I received this letter from a man named Kyle Young, whom I've gotten to know over the past 4 years, but you remember him as 39706-509. These are Kyle's words. The Northern Neck Regional Jail looks like a simple county jail on the outside, but I witnessed major human rights violations on the inside. When you arrive at the jail, they only give you a jumpsuit, no underwear, no socks, no shoes, no anything. Your only hope is that somebody will give you those things. The food is not for human consumption. The kitchen staff allows mice to run over it, eat it, pee and poop on it. I have a long list of things I could say regarding what the guards and staff do to you, but I'll only discuss the worst incident that I witnessed firsthand. One day we were all sitting out in the pod when we heard a big bang in the hallway. We looked at each other puzzled. 30 seconds later, something slammed into the pod door. Then the door opened. It was a black man, shackled and handcuffed, with one guard on each arm and each leg. The sally port has windows, and you can see the shoe door. They rocked him back like a battering ram, lunged toward the door, and slammed his head into it. There was blood on the door and in the hallway from this and the first big bang we all heard. They opened the door again, strapped the guy in a buck chair, put gloves on, and began beating the already bloody, unconscious man. Ladies and gentlemen, this is absurd. I can't believe that none of you knew about this and many other things that were happening in here. The Bible says God will not be mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he shall also reap. May God have mercy on you if you don't act.
Anyone else wish to speak? Yes, sir.
How you guys doing? My name is Chris Quaglin. Not only pardoned January 6er, I'm now a non-felon. I was here for about a year. On October 4th, I wrote this. I've been to 7 jails in 11 months. Jail number 7 has been by far the worst yet. From rats and mice to roaches and food, to guards beating on inmates, to superintendent and a captain who think they make up their own rules and there are no such things as prisoner rights or human rights. I have been treated like a guinea pig by medical personnel who don't know what they're doing. I've been in constant battle with Superintendent Ted Hull since day one regarding my need for gluten-free food. Ted Hull says he can provide me with certified gluten-free, he will not provide me with certified gluten-free food. To date, I'm down 50 pounds since my arrival at Northern Neck. He openly stated I didn't have celiac even though I was diagnosed 25 years ago. My beginning was at 12/20/21. Arrival at Northern Neck Jail, I told everyone upon entry that I had celiac disease. I needed a gluten-free diet. I was ignored by everyone. No COVID-19 quarantine, which was a federal mandate. COVID-19 was rampant through the 80-person J-pod. I became sick after the third day. For 6 days, I was given no special diet, so I couldn't eat anything. On the 6th day, I was given 2 insured drinks, which was, I was told, 1 for lunch and 1 for dinner. Merry Christmas. The 7th day was the first real food. I had now been given 1,000 calories in 7 days. I also never received a cup for water, so I had to use my hands to drink water because there were no water fountains. Upon arrival, I was given one small bar of soap for 2 weeks. The bar lasted for 3 days. I was refused a second one. By the 7th day, I'm down 10 pounds. I called a lawyer who then included a reporter from the Epic Times in the call. The next day I tested positive for COVID-19. I was told that there would be no lockdown if I tested positive. I was immediately moved to OPOD and locked down 24/7. There were no phone for 9 days. It was taken from me by Superintendent Ted Holt. I later found that out because I talked to a reporter. That means that NNRJ openly admits to not only listening to my lawyer calls, but punishing me for what was said during a lawyer-client confidential call. I still received no soap, and I continued to be locked down for 24 hours during 4 days. I demanded to speak to a supervisor. It's now 2 weeks, and I'm down 20 pounds. Write-up number 1 was because I demanded to speak to a supervisor, and I was told, quote, I don't have the right to speak to a supervisor just because I want to. COVID-19 lockdown ended. I am now down 30 pounds in 21 days. I needed to be moved to a disciplinary pod. I have everything documented for the past year. This is only the first 21 days. I told everyone for a year that this day would come and I would be speaking to all of you as a free man. That day is today. I am furious at the inhumane conditions I saw at Northern Neck Regional Jail. Not just me, but for everybody. I told you that eventually the FBI would be questioning every single one of you, and that day will come. They're going to give you one chance to cooperate, just like they gave me. To cooperate and give up a bigger fish like the DOJ or the U.S. Marshals. I strongly suggest that you take it, because cops are not built to be on the other side of those bars. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak in the public comment?
You go ahead.
This is a little bit different. My name's Maurice Johnson, Northumberland County. So I'd like to voice a couple of concerns. A couple months ago, Michelle gave us a presentation. And I have a couple of concerns over what wasn't said in that presentation. And that was the protection of inmates and detainees from staff. That's the only connecting line that you didn't touch on. We have strong indicators that abuses occur right here, enough so that the issue in general has already been ruled on by the Supreme Court. I mentioned Kingsley versus Hendrickson, 2015. Any claims that it doesn't or hasn't happened here widens an already strained credibility gap. The claim that mixing detainees that you made, that's my second problem with the presentation you gave, is unavoidable. This perspective creates an environment ripe for opportunity to violate the rights of those whose guilt or innocence has not yet been determined. We are very aware that punishment of those yet to be tried happens. Mr. Hull stated in writing that there is no difference between a convicted or an unconvicted inmate here. If that sounds like adherence to the Constitution to you, or doesn't sound like it is, we may have a problem, because somebody who hasn't been found guilty by a jury of their peers has all of their constitutional rights intact, all of them. So basically what that particular point in the presentation said to me was that it's unavoidable. That's what you said. but it's actually inconvenient. And avoiding the constitutional requirements as a matter of bureaucratic inconvenience is unacceptable. A couple of months ago, we saw presentations for devices that are intended or engineered to control, in theory, inmates, and I'm sure they would be highly effective. This board asked for and got permission to buy the electric gloves. And if you don't see an opportunity for abuse in that, and this gets back to my first comment, there could be a problem. The mitigation of the risk for abuse of tools, much less training, is a problem. If the bad things that we believe have occurred are nothing more than fanciful folly, then why does the state have a bill sitting on the desk down there in Richmond for approval? Please don't insult us with, this is an island of virtue. It's not. Statistically, things happen here more than at others. The money spent on inmates is barely over half of what your sister organization spent. I don't think we have to understand, we do understand the challenges that you face. Totally get it. You've got staffing problems, hiring problems, a whole bunch of stuff going on. That just makes it all the more hard, but it doesn't mean that we get to ignore it. Speak out. This organization can do better. At some point in the not too distant future, I expect that it will. If this organization is as good as it claims, it will be a part of the solution rather than a part of the problem. And I look forward to seeing that happen. Thank you.
Anyone else who desires to speak from the public comment? Yes, sir.
Chairman Fisher, hello everyone. I'm Tom Jeffries, Chairman of Northern Neck Patriots, and you've heard these kinds of stories before. Think of Robert Morse, who wrote the J6 Prisoners Code of Conduct. This is an 11-point guideline to begin with how people should behave in jail so that they don't make a bad name for themselves. The J6ers, many of these people, like Chris and others, are good quality individuals who never really did anything wrong in their lives, and they've got stories to tell, so you're going to continue to hear them. From a prisoner's perspective, this is one of the worst jails or prisons in the country. You've heard that before. It appears you don't care much about the rights of prisoners or even about basic dignity. All these people are treated the same, poorly. So what do the citizens want? I will tell you what I want. I want to know that if someone from our counties falls into this jail, they will be treated with respect and not thrown in with federal rapists, child molesters, and murderers. It's a reasonable ask. A couple of things you can do right now. Number one, I'd like you to publish this video link prominently on your website so that the citizens of these counties can see what happens inside this board meeting. I've looked all over your website, I can't find it, so thank you if you would do that. Number two, I think you could appoint a citizen from each county to sit on this board. Your bylaws allow you to have 3 representatives from each county. Consider having a citizen sit in to make sure that citizens' rights are being addressed. Number 3, publish in the minutes every month the prisoner roster. You publish your roster now with a number by federal, by county, by so on, but include the charge types, because it goes back to, again, I want to know if my brother lands in here, what kind of people he's next to. Segregate pretrial detainees away from federal state prisoners. You could do that right now. Segregate them. The big ask, remove all federal, state, or state prisoners from the jail immediately. Why are they here? This is a regional jail. Make this for the people that in our counties that have to go to jail. And short of any of the things I just mentioned above, Chairman Fisher, I think you should consider stepping down in disgrace. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who desires to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Teresa Altness and I reside in Gloucester County, Virginia. I've been here off and on since October. And sir, with all due respect, your comment about answering questions, there are questions I've asked this board numerous times. I've not got one answer from you or any other member of this board. And the failed attempt for what Ms. Lewis is trying to hide, I do have some documentation of some things and some claims about me that are absolutely false. But I'll get to that later. I received an email, I presented to this, you, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of this board, 4 FOIA requests. None of them were answered. I'm still in the process of working with the FOIA Council of Virginia, and I do have additional FOIA requests that I will present to you. The one thing about it is when your people here inside the jail want to provide a document, sir, I would recommend that you instruct them to make sure they're not forged. That said, one of the things I asked for was the transportation. Mr. Champion, your person, whatever he was, said to me on November the 21st, when I picked up my family member from this jail, that I should have been able to have transportation back to my county. I asked for that transportation policy. Your transportation policy, sir, has not been updated since December of 2017. It's interesting that Ms. Lewis's signature is on a policy that's not been updated since 2017. I would recommend you look into that. That said, it was Amy, I don't know if it's Damarin, whatever her name is, but this is her response to me about the transportation when I asked about providing transportation back to a locality for an inmate. Policy does not address transporting inmates back to their home localities when released. However, it is a practice with the Northern Neck Regional Jail that if an inmate is released from the jail and does not have a ride, we encourage them to find a ride, offering free phone calls to assist them in finding transportation upon release. The jail practice is not to release an inmate from the facility without any sort of transportation back to their jurisdiction. If an inmate cannot find transportation, then the transportation officer will transport the released inmate at the end of their shift, typically between 5 and 6 p.m. Get this one, I can't believe that this person put this in writing. For the safety and security reasons, the person released typically is transported to a public area where they can arrange further transportation within the jurisdiction that they were arrested. The inmate is released at this point, so the person is not restrained. Under certain circumstances, when a released inmate has not secured a ride and is approaching midnight, we may start to make arrangements for overnight stay at a hotel and motel so that the released inmate can make transportation arrangements the next day. When did y'all start paying for somebody spending the night in a hotel? I told you at the last meeting, there were 2 U.S. Marshals trying to handcuff my sister to remove her from this jail. I haven't heard a word on that. That said, I want to publicly say, I've heard from these prisoners, these J6 prisoners, trust me when I tell you, I've heard stories from my sister that almost are verbatim of what you're saying, and some of you I haven't seen before today. I have no clue who you are, other than you're a J6 prisoner. It's obvious that the abuses, the civil rights abuses, are still going on in this jail. And for the 4 elected sheriffs in this room, the members of the Board of Supervisors and the county administrators, it's appalling that millions of dollars of our taxpayer dollars are going to this facility and the abuses are still going. And Mr. Chairman, I know my time is up. I will abide by my time, but I'm submitting 2 more FOIA requests, and I respectfully ask that the documents be given to me and certainly not be forged or manipulated in any way. Because I have proof.
Anyone else present desire to speak? Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Mark Nobler. I'm from Lancaster County, and I've been here a couple of times, and was actually even under Ted Hall, who actually, my wife came here and she felt she was looking at Satan himself. He's a very, very